Hello and welcome to this introduction to Xero. My name's David and I work with Valued, and over the next 30-40 minutes we're going to have a little look at some of the basics behind how Xero actually works. I will share my screen and we'll get started straight away. So we'll see here, this is the login screen. This is where you will be brought to when you go to xero.com. And once you've clicked to log in and entered your email address and password, and ideally your two-factor authentication credentials, then you will be brought to your dashboard. So this is what you will see when you first enter Xero. What we are going to do today, we're going to have a look at the content of this dashboard. We're also going to have a look at the content of this blue toolbar at the top. Now, this is present in all screens within Xero, so we'll show you what this does for you and how it can help. We're then going to take a little bit of a deeper dive into certain key functions within Xero itself. So we're going to have a look at raising invoices and looking at invoices owed to you. We're going to look at bills you need to pay and how you can monitor what you owe to your suppliers. And then we're going to have a look at reconciling the bank and how that operates. So essentially, those three key elements will give you the day-to-day operation of Xero itself. It's a much bigger program than that. There's lots more that you can do within it. So reporting, managing contacts. As you can see, there's options for projects, for expenses. There's all sorts of things that Xero can offer you. And that's just within Xero itself. Xero actually sits at the center of a huge web of over 1,000 products that can connect into Xero to help you in all sorts of different aspects of your business as well. So first of all, we will get started with the blue toolbar at the top. This covers a number of the key areas that you will want to visit within the system. Firstly, we are on the dashboard. This is the dashboard tab. If you get lost within Xero at any point, click on the dashboard tab and it will bring you back to this starting point again. Very simple, very, very easy. You then have the business tab on the left. This gives you access to a number of shortcuts straight to areas such as your invoices, your quotations, your overview of sales. And then similarly on the purchase side, your bills that you need to pay, your purchase orders, and the purchases overview as well. You can see that we have other functions in here, so you can get to expense claims through here, a paid for feature within Xero itself if you want to use the expense claims module. And then the idea of products and services. So essentially items that we want to add to bills and invoices time and time again, setting them up as products and services makes that essentially a one-click process. You've also got access to some key insights. These analytics areas, short-term cash flow and the business snapshot are there to give you guidance and an insight into how your business is performing right now. The next tab along is the accounting tab. You would certainly have access to the likes of banks, etc. Again, you would not necessarily have items like self-assessment. Again, I've got accountancy level access, but you guys would have reports for certain. You may well have the advanced features as well. So these are settings areas that we can go into. But then you can see it's giving us a series of favorited reports. So things like aged payables, receivables, balance sheet, cash flow, profit and loss, your VAT return, if you're VAT registered. But then we get other advanced areas. These are favorited settings that we can access, such things as our chart of accounts. So basically the list of pots of money that underpins your bookkeeping system, and things that, again, are more tools for accountants like fixed assets, find and recode, and manual journals. So don't worry too much if you don't have all of these options in the accounting dropdown. Projects, again, is a paid-for element of the system. We'll not be going into that today. You wouldn't always have that tab if you're not subscribed to projects. But then contacts, we would have. We can either review all of the contacts that you have within the system, or we can see that those are broken down into your customers and suppliers. These are automated groupings. As soon as you add an invoice to a contact, it becomes a customer. As soon as you add a bill to a contact, it becomes a supplier. And it can be both. It doesn't have to be two separate records. It's always contained within the one record. We can also set up groups of our own as well. So if we need to analyze our contacts in more detail or to deal with them in a more automated fashion, then we absolutely can set up our own groups within contacts. On the right-hand side, you'll see that we've got a series of icons. The first of these, in this case, it's my mugshot, but this is usually your initials. This will give you access to your own profile within Xero, to your Xero account details. You can access the Xero Help Center through here as well. And indeed, you can log out of the system from here as well. If you're working from home or in an office environment, you won't always need to log out of the system. But if you're in any sort of public forum, remember always, if you are moving any distance from your workstation, make sure you log out of sensitive things like Xero, just from a security point of view. The 9-dot menu gives us access to basically the apps that can be connected to Xero. So you can look at your App Store, you can manage your app connections. There's all sorts that you can find in there. It's basically a huge toolbox for you to fish in and find the right item to help you with. You've then got the help section. So we will see as we go through the system. And again, when I move into our demo company shortly, you'll see that there are always help sections at the tops of various screens. But the help area here will give you access to keyword searches. So if I said new contact, then it will absolutely find me any relevant articles about adding a new contact into the system. I can again click through into Xero Central and learn what we're doing. That is a fantastic resource. So if you're new to Xero, or even if you've been using Xero for a long time, it has all sorts of articles in there and videos, etc., that can help you understand what you need to know about Xero. Next one along, we have the notifications. There may well be notifications in there that are relevant to you. I would certainly check them out and see what it is telling you. Sometimes there will be news articles in there that may not relate to the UK, but certainly check it out if it says that there are any outstanding notifications, and you'll be keeping yourself up to date. We then have the quick search guide. So I could search for any client name. So if I search for a client name there, we will see that it should eventually find what we're looking for, and there it might show us any bills, any invoices, the client itself. All of these are clickable links that will take us through to the relevant record within the system. We then got the quick launch option. So when we click on this plus symbol, it allows us to create new items of the following. So invoices, bills, contacts, quotes, and purchase orders. You may not have access to the other items, but essentially they are there as well. So manual journals, spend and receive and transfer monies, all things that can be handled much more efficiently when we're looking at bank reconciliation. So those are the icons on the right-hand side of that blue toolbar. The only other item that we haven't mentioned is the company name at the top left. If we click on this, we get a drop-down menu. You can see here that it's giving you access to a files library. This is where we can go and add files, documents, images, whatever it may be, for future inclusion in other records. So if I'm going to be adding, let's say, an invoice to a customer, I may want to put a copy of a contract in there or something like that, and I can attach that to the invoice later on when I'm sending that to my client. We can see that we've got the settings area as well. So under accounting, we had advanced. Settings is the broader area of the settings in the background of the system. But then you can see that we've got access to other elements within Xero as well. So you've got payroll, you've got Analytics Plus, which is the paid for version of what's under the business tab. You've got Workflow Max as it exists right now, although that is being cancelled in just under a year's time. We've got HubDoc, we've got Rota, we've got the App Store itself. And then if you are an accountant, you will have access to other functions like HQ, My Work Papers, Practice Manager, etc. But everybody will have access to My Xero. My Xero is an area where you can find your demo company. If I click on My Xero, it will open it up as a separate tab. And as we see at the bottom, I'll scroll to the bottom of my list, you'll see that it then says at the very bottom there, try the demo company. There's also the option to reset the demo company as well. If I click try the demo company, it will take me into a fake organization. So you can see it says Demo Company UK. This is unique to me. It would be unique to you. It is a play space, somewhere where you can try things, test things out, break things, and you're not in any way risking your live data when you're actually doing so. This is recycled every 28 days. You can reset the demo company as well. So just at the bottom where we clicked on try the demo company, there's a reset option in that same line of information as well. But once we've entered the demo company once, we can use this drop down to change organizations. And you can see that I can move back to my XYZ organization. And I can then click on it again to once again return to my demo company. So I can just move between them very, very easily once I've done it the first time. So in essence, that's the blue toolbar at the top. Now let's have a look at the content of the dashboard. So we can see within here, there's our help section. First of all, get to know Xero. You can hide these if you're happy with the whole system, and you can move on from there. But you can see that we've got these laid out in various sections, widgets, as you might call them, within the dashboard itself. So we've got banks down the left-hand side and a total cash in and out position. And on the right-hand side, we have all sorts of items. So permanent items would usually include your invoices owed to you, bills you need to pay. You may well have your expenses displayed on there as well. But things like your accounts watch list, or indeed business performance graphs, these can be added afterwards using extra functions within the system. Looking at the invoices owed to you, this is the section that we're going to be tackling first. So let's have a look at how we add a new invoice into Xero. Well, it's fairly obvious. Xero is very good at making things plain English. If we want to add a new invoice, we can click on New Sales Invoice. You saw at the beginning there, we do also have the option to raise a new invoice through the quick launch as well. So if I wasn't on the dashboard, I could easily do that from any screen that I'm in within Xero. When I click on New Sales Invoice, it will give me a form to fill in. So first of all, who is the invoice to? If I start typing the name of a client, you will see that it's starting to thin out the list of names. So if I just delete one there, you can see I get a longer list. As I start to continue typing, that list is refined down for me. Now I could add a new contact on the go if I want to. All it will do is create the record with a name, but no other details. For now, I'm going to choose Bayside Club. So that's an existing client. And then I get to pick my date of my invoice. It defaults to today's date, but I can then change that to be any date that I want it to be. So if I wanted this to be the start of the month, I can put that in. If I then use my tab key to move through my due date, it will fill it in again with today's date. I can either, again, choose a date from the calendar, or I can get a little bit more clever with that. I can do things like plus 30, and it will add 30 days to the date of my invoice. So my due date, 30 days ahead. My invoice number will count up sequentially. So this is 46, the next one will be 47, then 48. I can make them unique, so I can add items into that invoice number if I wish to. The next one will simply revert back to invoice 47 at that point. I can add my reference in, whatever that may need to be, and I have my choice of a branding theme. Now, what is a branding theme? This is the style of invoice that you're sending to your client. So here I'm going to choose something quite hideous. I make no apologies for Xero's idea of what's a design in your branding, but we'll see that very, very shortly. I can preview the invoice. There's not a lot to preview the invoice. There's not a lot to preview right now. There's not much detail in there. You can see we can do it based on a laptop or a phone. And then I have my files icon on the right. So if I did have items in my file library that I want to add in, I can go and add those in, or I can browse on my PC and add my items in from there. So all things that I can do to enhance what information I'm sending to the client. Xero can be multi-currency. So if you're using multiple currencies, you can choose your currency on the left. And again, if I am VAT registered, I can choose whether my invoices are inclusive of VAT, exclusive of VAT, or indeed they attract no VAT at all. I'll make mine exclusive of VAT at the minute. So then I'm into filling in the body of the invoice itself. Now, my first column, items, refers to those products and services that I mentioned before. So where we've got products and services there, these are the items that it's referring to in this column here. So when I click into the drop-down, I will see a series of items, and I can select one of those or whichever I need to add to my invoice. So instantly that's filled out. We've got all of the information that we need. We've got a price, etc. It's up to me whether I'm using that information. If I don't want that, and I can change anything that I want to in here. So if I wanted to change the price or change the VAT or whatever I want to do, I can do that. But if I just don't want that line, I can get rid of it entirely. I can add in whatever I am putting in. So I tend to sell a lot of stuff. So there is my stuff. I'm going to give it a quantity. I'm going to give it a unit price. If I want to give it a discount, I can. And you can see that there I've added a 10% discount. All that has done is reduced the value of the line by the amount of the discount. So 10% off my 100 gives me my 90 on the right-hand side. But we don't like giving discounts, so that one has gone. You can see my account code. It says sales, 200 sales. This is a default within the system. It's also a best guess on the part of Xero as well. What we will see is that we can have many codes within here. As I mentioned before, that chart of accounts is literally just the pots of money that we record things to when we are selling or buying things for the business. So here, sales, other revenue, or interest income. Again, I could add another code if I wanted to, but for now, I'm going to keep it as sales. You can see that it's treating me with 20% VAT. Again, if I was selling something at reduced VAT, exempt VAT, or no VAT, I could choose that from the drop-down as well. We also have within here an example of what's called a tracking category. These can be set up through those advanced settings. And what they actually do is these will give us extra ways of analyzing the information. And this can include things like department references, sales personnel, however we want to represent that information within Xero. We can report upon it, so it is quite useful. Here I'm just going to put my information to North and say that's the region that we're making the sale for. And from there, if I wanted to save this and come back to finish it off later, I could click Save. It will save it as a draft invoice. If I'm ready to approve this invoice and move on, I can click on Approve. I might just add some further information into this. So this is my description. This is an example of a message line in the invoice. I can move this about. I can move any lines in my invoice about. So you can say I've changed the order in which they appear. It's entirely up to you whether you use message lines or not, but they're there in case you need them. When I click on Approve, you will see that this is then showing me the details of my invoice and saying, thank you, that's approved. And there are the details. There's Bayside Club, my link through to my client. If I want to edit their address straight away, I can do. And you can see that I do have the option of online payment links as well. So these are things that can be added into Xero to enhance your ability for clients to pay. So when they receive their invoice, they can click on that link and pay you straight away. You can see I've got a history at the very bottom. So if I click into that, we can see that it was me who created and then approved the invoice. You will get history when you send the invoice. It will tell you if you're emailing the invoice, which email address you sent it to. And if a client views the invoice online, it will also tell you about that as well. I can print the invoice as a PDF. Let me mark it as sent. This is what I mean about branding themes. Bear with me while we take a deep in breath, because there we go. Ugly. Please don't make your invoices look like this. But you can see we do have the payment link at the bottom, and we even have the age-old tear-off remittance advice if we want that as well. So again, entirely up to you how you structure your invoice templates. But moving on, yes, that's how it looks when we print our PDF. We can email our invoice to our client. So there's Bob's email address. It will give us, again, a default message. So hi, Bayside Club. I can change that to say anything that I want to on a one-off basis. So if I want to say hi, Bob, thanks, David, I can do absolutely that. You can see I can send myself a copy. I can send a copy of the PDF of the invoice as well as an attachment, and I can send any other attachments along with the email as well. So I can do all sorts of things within here. As I mentioned before, there is a reason why you might not wish to send the PDF with the invoice as well. If a client simply opens the PDF, we don't know about that. We don't get to find out about it. If we don't send the PDF and we essentially force them to click on this link in the message to go and view their invoice online, we do get history about that. So again, very easy for us to manage that information within the client. So if they then try and persuade us that they haven't seen the invoice, we can see from the history within the invoice that we have that they indeed have seen that invoice. Okay. Once we have approved our invoice, we have invoice options as well. So if I need to make any changes, I could edit my invoice, and that allows me to change anything that I need to. I could copy my invoice and make either a quotation or an invoice of it again. If I need to repeat this on a semi-regular basis, I can simply copy it to a brand new invoice, and it is a carbon copy of the original. I could void the invoice if I want to, or I could make it a repeating invoice. So this then could be, we could tell the system to send it out every month. And again, we can include the right message to send along with that, etc. So again, very, very flexible. I can also share the invoice as well. So this gives me essentially a link that I can send over the likes of WhatsApp or Messenger, etc., if my client is more comfortable using those types of media to access their business information. So there's lots that we can do within the invoice itself. You can see that we can also mark the invoice as paid, either in part or in full. So I can add payment details in here as well if I wish to. My suggestion would be that unless this is recording things like the payment of a check or something like that, that type of payment is better dealt with when we are looking at the bank reconciliation as well. If I come back to invoices just above there, this is going to take me back to essentially my list of invoices. You can see what we've got there, those invoices that are awaiting payment. These are the overdue ones in red. So again, if I was looking just at overdue from the dashboard, I would see that those would be singled out. Or I might have invoices that are in draft. So again, I can see that I need to finish these off and get those sent to my client. You can see paid invoices, all your invoices, your repeating invoices. It's very, very flexible. There are other ways of handling invoices. You can see that here I can switch to the new form of invoicing. This is a slightly different look. It is, broadly speaking, the same functionality in its entirety. So again, you can see that it's just a slightly different looking page. Personally, I'm an old stick in the mud. I like to use the original version. It's just a little bit more comfortable for me, but don't let that put you off. If you want to have a look at the new version of invoicing, it's very straightforward and it's very intuitive as well. So do give it a go and you can see how that works for you. Moving on, we'll have a brief look at entering bills into Xero as well now. So if I was to click into where we've got bills you need to pay, again, I can see my drafts, my awaiting payment, and my overdues. If I click on new bill, it's entirely similar in its process. So once again, this is a form filling exercise. So it might be Bayside Wholesale. Again, it might be dated from the end of last month. We might have, again, 30 days to pay our invoice. There might be a reference. There may be items included in here. So if I was buying stock items, they might already be listed in, and that's fine. Or alternatively, it might be, once again, that I'm ordering in something specific. I can say what my quantity, my unit price, etc. is, what account it is to. There is no suggestion on this occasion. When I'm purchasing something, there's a whole swathe of possible accounts that we could put it to. So again, you can either browse the list or you can type something in that's much more straightforward. So if I said this was a cleaning product, then I will find cleaning. If it was postage, then I can type post. If it was, I don't know, office equipment, I can find that. You can see all sorts of things. Actually, we'll put it to office equipment. Why not? IT software and consumables. There we go. Again, I can put it to my region. So there's North. And once I'm happy with the details of my bill, I can approve it. You can imagine I might want to include any PDF copy that they've sent me as an attached document. But there we go. I've just recorded my bill. Same situation. I have my history at the bottom. I'm able to add payments to my bill as well. And again, I can use my bill options to either void the bill, make it a repeating bill, copy it to another bill or to a purchase order if I want to use those as well. Very, very simple stuff. Again, click on bills to pay and we see the same sort of list structure that we did under our invoices. So again, very, very easy for us to have a look at the details that we have there. So there are other ways of adding bills into the system. I won't go into those right now in great detail, but there are plenty of systems out there that allow you to capture bills and receipts using mobile devices, using apps on your phone, and they can help you fill in the details of a bill very quickly and then publish them across into Xero so that you essentially are streamlining your process. Manually entering your bills, very easy to do, but it just takes time. If we can automate that process in any way, we're saving that time and giving you that time back to do other things with. So then let's have a look at the third of these cornerstones, which is the bank. We're particularly talking here about bank reconciliation. So your bank in Xero will connect to your online banking. Pretty much all banks these days have online connections. Usually you will need to refresh those every 3 months. That's just UK banking regs. But here we can see that we've got statement information flowing into this fake bank account. And currently there are 29 statement lines that we need to tell Xero about. You'll see also that we have two figures in the system. We have the balance that Xero understands, And we have the statement balance in our bank account as at the stated date. So where we've got at the 3rd of July, that was our bank balance. If we were to check on our online bank at that date, it should match the value that we've got here. So let's have a look at the reconciliation process. When I click into reconcile, we will see that I then have the following page. Again, I have help at the top if I want to understand a little bit more about how this works. But there are my headline figures, my statement balance and my balance in Xero. And you can see that we've now got 2 columns. On the left-hand side, I have all of my statement information pulling through from my bank. On the right-hand side, I have all of the options as to how I can tell Xero about these. This is also where Xero starts to try to help me. So we can see that I've got some items that are already in green and they have an OK option next to them. This is Xero trying to match these items based on the value. So where it sees an amount of money coming in, if we've got an invoice outstanding for that same amount, it will produce this match option and say, is this correct? It's up to us to say that it is, hence it hasn't done it automatically for us. If it was possible to match to several items within our system, then it would give us that option underneath. It would say that there are other possible matches and we would be able to review those and see which of those was accurate. And we don't have to accept this one either. We can still go to find and match, and we can go looking for the invoice that we want to match against. In this case, we've got enough information, Ridgeway University, both sides, everything matches. I'm quite happy. It's telling me here by this little icon, this is an open sales invoice. So it's not a payment that we've logged against an invoice already. It is literally just the open invoice itself. Watch what happens to my balance in Xero when I click OK. That now disappears and my balance in Xero has increased by that amount. If I was matching off, let's say, a payment, and payment transactions in Xero have the word payment in front of them, they're quite easily spotted, and the icon is slightly different as well. That is a bank transaction telling us that we've recorded a payment against, in this case, a bill. Value-wise, we've still got a match. So Trust and Property Management, we've got that as a narrative and the value as well. Here again, I can click OK, but because this has already been recorded as a payment within Xero, Xero already understands this amount. So when I click on OK, nothing changes in that balance there. So then I've got all sorts of things that I can do to match things up. Here, for example, I know I've paid 2 invoices in one go to Smart Agency. So I can go looking for those within here. I can click on Find and Match. I can start typing the name of Smart Agency, and it will find any matching items for me. As soon as I select these, it will then, if they come to an exact match, you'll see it says Totals Match, and it's now giving me the OK option. When I click OK, that will then disappear, and that item of bank statement has now been reconciled. We can see that we've got other items that may be being suggested to us. So here, Ridgeway Bank, this is a suggestion because Xero has seen us do this before. Let me show you what that looks like in terms of Cooper Street Bakery. So if I said that I'd gone around the corner and bought a buffet for my clients, Cooper Street Bakery, it's a new contact. What was it for? Well, this was for entertainment, 100% business. I might notice as soon as I've put those 2 in, I get my OK option. I'm going to say that this was for a buffet, and because it was cold food, there was no VAT on it. And if I just click OK at this point, that records that transaction. That is what we would call a spend money. It is basically something that does not require an invoice or a bill from my supplier to say, guess what, this is what we were spending our money on. Notice further on down, Cooper Street Bakery again. The system has remembered what we did with the last one. So again, if this hasn't changed, I can simply click OK again. If it has changed, if I've now bought hot food, I can change that to a different VAT, for example, or this might be hot lunch, whatever it might be. And from there, I can once again save that and by clicking OK. It will only remember what we did with it last time. So things like bank fees, which are never going to change, very easy. We're never going to get a receipt or a bill for them either. So again, this is a perfect way to handle that type of item. But we've got other things that we can do in there as well. We can start to standardize that type of information using rules. So here, 7-Eleven, we've got a rule applied. What is it doing for us? Well, if I click on view details, you can see that it's already putting transaction information in for me. So it's saying miscellaneous corner store, it's putting it to general expenses, and it's including a VAT element in that as well. If I'm happy with that, I can save the transaction and I can simply click on OK on my reconciliation there, and on it goes. It's very easy to create rules within the bank reconciliation as well. Here I have central city parking, and I want to create a rule for my parking fees. I never have little parking tickets. I'm not going to take photographs of them and push them in as bills. Why would I? I just want to say this is what I've spent my money on. So I can choose to create my bank rule. When I do so, it will bring me into the following screen. Here, it's matching any of the conditions listed out below. So first of all, that the payee equals central city parking. Well, first of all, that information might not just be in the payee field of the bank transaction. So I'm going to say search any field to find that information. It also might not just say central city parking. There might be a great long reference number at the end of it, which changes from occasion to occasion. So here I'm going to say starts with. So starts with central city parking. I'm also going to then say in section 2 that it's going to be at the contact of central city parking that we want to put this transaction against. So that will create my contact the first time that we get this transaction. And then I've got the third section where I can tell it in what ratios I want to apportion that amount. So do I want to put a fixed amount to a certain code, or do I want to simply ignore that and put a percentage, usually the full 100%, to a particular line item in my transaction? So here I'm going to say that this is parking fees. I'm going to put it to travel national as it is. It's going to be VATable, but I can't necessarily say what region it is, because guess what? I could be paying for my parking in all sorts of different regions. We can have the reference added as we go, and we can apply this to either a single bank account or all of our bank accounts in one go if we wish. It's already suggesting a name for the rule. We can change that if we want to. But I'm just going to save that now, and we'll see that that's going to bring us back to our bank reconciliation. And as I look down for central city parking, there it is. It's got the details in. All I need to do is click OK. And there's another one. I can click OK to that as well. And then I've got another one. And you can see there's another periodical. It's a payment that I've made against a bill. That can go as well. So you can see that this starts to really ramp up the speed at which we can handle our bank reconciliation. We can move money between bank accounts. So if I've got money being transferred in from a savings account, for example, I can say that this is a transfer. I can select which account it's from. Here I only have one other account, the savings account. But then I can add a reference if I wish to, but I can also then click save. And what that will also do is place a transaction in the other account ready to reconcile. But what if things don't match up quite exactly? Here I've paid Swanston Security. I know I've paid a bill, but it hasn't found the matching bill. So there is my 59.55. I can go searching for Swanston Security, and I will find my bill. There's my bill, and we can see that the value is actually slightly out. If I click to include this, it's actually out by a penny. I've overpaid by a penny. Well, I could go and amend the invoice. That's probably not right to do so. Can I amend the payment? Well, I've already made the payment. So the simplest way to handle this is using an adjustment. I can click on adjustments. I can choose my minor adjustment. If this had been a bank fee, then I could have obviously selected bank fee. But when I choose minor adjustments and start to enter the value of my adjustment, my mistake, there we go. I can now see that that instantly matches, because the value of my bill plus my adjustment equal the value of the payment that I've made. If I click on reconcile, that now disappears. I've got another transfer that it's remembered because I used that before. So again, the learning continues within the system. We've also got other things that we can do, such as receiving money when there is no invoice in place. So here I've got £2,000 as a deposit in advance from Jacaranda Maple Systems. So here I can then say, well, what do I want to do with that? Well, I want to add the details. It's going to be, well, I'm not a direct payment. There is nothing to pay against at the minute. So here I can choose that essentially this is either a prepayment or an overpayment. A prepayment will have a VAT element to it, so I don't necessarily want to use that right now. The VAT will be recorded on my invoice. So here I'm going to record an overpayment. There's nothing else that I need to do to this right now, so I'm just simply going to save that transaction. What we can then do is click OK, and that line has been reconciled. What we will now want to do is go and create our invoice at some point in the future. So if I click on my quick launch, I can choose to make a new invoice. This is going to be to Jacaranda Maple Systems. So if I start to type the name, there is Jacaranda Maple Systems. It's created it because we added our deposit at that point. And from there, I'm then going to say when the date of my invoice is. So maybe it's today, that's absolutely fine. We might say that it's for payment at the end of the month or in 14 days, whatever I wish to do. Notice I'm on the new version of the invoicing here. I can then say what it is that it was for. So fees, whatever this may be. Quantity 1, unit price, I'm going to say that was 3,000. Sales, we're quite happy with that. It's tax inclusive. And at that point, I'm happy to then approve that invoice. So I'm just going to, instead of approve an email, I'm just going to choose approve. And this will then say, oh, guess what? There's £2,000 worth of credit sitting against Jacaranda Maple Systems. Do I want to apply it to this invoice? Yes, I do. I could skip it if it's for later, but right now I've got my overpayment and I want to apply my £2,000 against this invoice. It will leave a balance of 1,000, but that's fine. If it paid off the whole thing, I could certainly see that it would reduce the balance to 0. And at the same time, I could use part of this credit or all of it, and I could do it against multiple invoices if indeed we had several invoices that we wanted to apply this credit against. So very, very flexible. But again, that is simply me taking account of the fact that we'd already received that payment. Let me come back to the bank reconciliation just now. So you can see we're already down from 29 items to 14. We'd gone through that quite rapidly. If there was more that I wanted to do in here, I could look through. I could, again, look at other invoices that need to be recorded. So again, there's another one for Wilson Periodicals. There's my Central City parking again. There's my transfers from the bank, my bank fees, my 7-Eleven. All of these, I mean, you've seen me go through that. I'm now down to 8 items. So this is exceptionally straightforward. And at the same time, it means that if we keep on top of this on a regular basis, it's never going to take us more than a few minutes. So those are really the basics within our day-to-day use of Xero itself. We can report upon that very easily. So if I wanted to look at my profit and loss report, I can certainly do so. I can see how I'm performing as a business in this financial year or just this month or comparing periods. It's entirely up to me what I wish to do. I can apply filters within here based on my tracking categories or other items. Here, I'm going to choose the North, for example. And you can see that once I update my report, it's then showing me my sales. That's what I coded to before. And it's showing me any overheads that we would have as well. So again, postage, we can click into any one of these and see exactly where this information is coming from. So it's very, very easy for us to analyze where our report gets the information from, as long as Xero loads it in time. Come on, Xero, you can do it. There we go. So you can see the details within there as well. If I wanted to look at my contacts, again, I can look at all contacts. I will see them laid out before me. So again, as I'm looking down the system, I can search for my clients in the search bar or my suppliers, whoever it may be. You can see, for example, Bayside Club there, they actually have money in 2 sections. So it says under I owe them 130, they owe me 3554. If I want to see more details about that, I can click into their record. And from there, I can see invoices awaiting payment and bills awaiting payment as well. So lots of up-to-date and current information. I have a history of what's happened with them. I can add notes into their record as well. I can add documents in using my documents option there. I can edit my record. So if this is my client and supplier information here, I can say who the main contact is. So there's Bob. I can say what Bob's email address is. I've got sales and purchase default information. So if they always purchase from a particular department or for a particular purpose, I can put that in as well. I can amend their address and keep that up to date. All sorts of things within there just to make sure that my information is as accurate as possible. I can choose to archive my record if it's no longer relevant. I can send them a statement if I want to. I can add them to a group if it helps me. I can send out a new sales invoice or add a new quotation or bill or purchase order, whatever I wish to do. Very, very easy from within the contact record as well. Coming back to all contacts, you'll see once again that that's where they're listed, but I also have my tabs at the top. If I want to just look at my customers, I can do so. If I want to just look at my suppliers, I can do so again. If I wanted to search for ABC, as soon as I search for that, it will find who I'm looking for. So very, very easy to deal with. I can add a new contact just as easily. The bare minimum is the name, but other than that, filling in the rest of the details is obviously advised, especially if we're sending information out via email or via a PDF. We want those address details and contact details to be present. So that gives us, as I say, a little bit of an introduction and a flavor to Xero itself. Not the most difficult thing to do on a daily basis. So adding our invoices, recording our bills from our suppliers, making sure that the bank is reconciled and up to date. But again, there is much more to go. We will have further videos in the series telling you about other facets of Xero. So please join me for those, and I look forward to seeing you then. Thank you very much for your time, and we'll see you very soon. Take care. Bye for now.